July 14, 1965, Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles. 4:47 p.m. The heat was the kind that made asphalt shimmer like water. Dean Martin's hand stopped on the car door handle. Froze. Through the traffic noise and the city chaos, a voice. Young. Pure. Singing Everybody Loves Somebody. Dean's breath caught. He knew that song. Hell, he'd recorded it a year ago. It had just hit #1. But this voice? This wasn't his voice coming from a radio. 30 feet away, sitting on the corner of Sunset and Vine, a boy. Maybe 12, maybe 14. Dark glasses, white cane propped against his leg, tin cup at his feet. Blind and singing Dean Martin's song better than Dean Martin had ever sung it. Dean had been heading to NBC studios. Another taping of his variety show. Another week at #1 on the Billboard charts. Everybody Loves Somebody had knocked the Beatles off the top spot. At 47, Dean Martin was having the biggest year of his career. He had a hit show, a hit record, movie offers piling up on his agent's desk. Frank was calling twice a day, trying to get him back to the sands for another run. Life was good. Life was busy. But that voice stopped him cold. Den knew talent when he heard it. He'd been in the business 30 years. Heard thousands of singers. Most were okay. Some were good. A handful were great. This kid, this blind kid on a street corner, he was something else entirely. Dean walked closer, slowly. The boy didn't notice. He was lost in the song. Eyes closed behind those dark glasses. Head tilted back slightly. Every note perfect. Every word clear. The kid wasn't just singing. He was feeling it, living it. The way Dean himself used to sing before the business turned music into product. People walked past. Boozy. Distracted. A woman in a pink dress glanced over, kept walking. 2 businessmen in suits didn't even look. Los Angeles in 1965 didn't stop for street singers. But Dean stopped. The boy's voice rose on the chorus. Sweet, effortless. No strain, just pure tone flowing out like he was born to do this one thing. Dean felt something in his chest tighten, not jealousy, recognition. This was the real thing. Raw. Untrained. But undeniable. The song ended. The boy reached down, felt for his cup, found 2 quarters and a dime, 60 cents. He smiled anyway. Small. Genuine. Like 60 cents was a fortune. That was beautiful. The boy's head snapped toward Dean's voice, startled. Thank you, sir. You know whose song that is? Wes, sir. Dean Martin's. He's my favorite singer. But Dean's smile. Felt warmth spread through him despite the heat. Is that right? Wes, sir. My mom, she plays his records every night. Says his voice is like heaven. The boy's face lit up when he talked about his mother. She works at a diner downtown. Comes home tired, but she always puts on Mr. Martin's records. Says they make everything better. Your mom's got good taste. What's your name, son? Michael, sir. Michael Castellano. Well, Michael Castellano, where'd you learn to sing like that? The boy shrugged. Shy now. Just from listening. I guess I can't read music or nothing. Can't read at all, actually. But I listen real careful, try to hear every little thing. The way the voice goes up and down, where to breathe, when to hold a note. Dean crouched down, eye level, even though the boy couldn't see him. How long you been singing out here, Michael? Few months since school got out. Mom works 2 jobs now. Dad's gone. Left last year. So I help out however I can. You sing for money? Wes, sir. People are nice sometimes. Yesterday I made $3. Pride in his voice. $3 was a good day. Dean looked at the tin cup. 60 cents. 4.5 hours of singing on a corner in the blazing heat. 60 cents. You ever had any training? Voice lessons? Michael laughed. Genuine, not bitter. No, sir. Just what I hear on the radio. I listen real careful. Try to sing it exactly like I hear it. My teacher at school says I got perfect pitch. Don't know what that means, but she seemed impressed. Perfect pitch means you hear a note and you can match it exactly. It means you're special kid. Thank you, sir. The boy's cheeks flushed. He wasn't used to compliments, and nobody's ever. I mean, has anyone from the music business ever stopped to listen? You're the first person who's talked to me all day, sir. Most people just walk by. I don't blame them. They got places to be, important things to do, no resentment, just acceptance. Like being invisible was normal. Dean felt something twist in his chest. Sharnful. This kid, this talented, polite, blind kid sitting on a street corner with a voice that could fill concert halls. And nobody noticed. Nobody cared. They just walked past, busy with their important lives, their important meetings, their important everything. Until now. Dean pulled out his wallet, took out a 20, dropped it in the cup. The boy heard it land. Different sound than coins. He reached down, felt it. His fingers stopped, trembled. Sir, this is too much. No, it's not. I can't accept. Kid, how would you like to do something for me? Michael's head tilted, confused. Sir, how would you like to sing that song again? Tonight. On television, on my show. Silence. Complete. The traffic noise faded. The world stopped spinning. Michael's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. You're Dean Martin. Whisper. Disbelief. Wonder. Yeah, kid, I'm Dean Martin. The real Dean Martin? Last time I checked. Michael's face went pale. Then red, then pale again. Your voice sounded familiar, but I thought I was imagining. Oh my God. I've been talking to... I called you sir. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Michael. The boy gulped air. His hands shook. I asked you a question. Would you like to sing on my show tonight? Yes, sir, Mr. Martin. But I don't understand. Why? Den stood up, looked down at this kid who'd been sitting here all day in the heat, singing his heart out, making 60 cents. Because you're good, kid, really good. And I think people should hear you. But I can't. I don't have nice clothes or my mom's at work and I can't just leave. She doesn't know where I am and we'll call her. Right now. From my car. You got a number. Michael nodded, rattled off a phone number, memorized. Dean's driver, Tony, had been watching this whole thing from the Cadillac, eyes wide, mouth open. Dean waved him over. Tony, get the car phone. We need to make a call. 3 minutes later, Dean was talking to Michael Castellano, explaining who he was, what he wanted to do. She didn't believe him at first, thought it was a prank, some cruel joke. Dan had to sing a line from That's Amore to convince her. Then she cried, asked if this was real. Dean promised it was real, promised her son would be safe, gave her the NBC Studios address, told her to meet them there at 6. Mr. Martin, Maria's voice cracked. My Michael, he's special, but nobody sees it. They just see the glasses. The cane don't see him. I see him, Mrs. Castellano. And after tonight, everyone else will too. Now, you might think this is just another feel-good Hollywood story. Famous singer helps talented kid. Happy ending. Credits roll. But here's what makes this different. What Dean Martin did in the next 72 hours wouldn't just change Michael's life. It would show Hollywood something they'd forgotten. That talent doesn't care about money, or connections, or luck. Talent just needs someone to notice. And Dean Martin, he'd spent his whole career noticing what others missed. He'd stood up for stuntmen when studios ignored them, paid hospital bills out of his own pocket when a man nearly died because Warner Brothers cut corners on safety equipment. He'd faced down mob bosses in Vegas when they tried to muscle in on his contracts. Told Sam Giancana to his face that he didn't take orders from anyone. And he'd walked away from his best friend, Jerry Lewis, his partner of 10 years, because Jerry had humiliated a young comic backstage and Dean couldn't stomach it anymore. And now, sitting on Sunset Boulevard in the summer heat, Dean was about to do something that would remind everyone what stardom was really for. Dean helped Michael into the Cadillac. The boy's hands shook as he felt for the door. Slid into the leather seat. He'd never been in a car this nice. Never been in any car except his mom's beat-up Chevy that broke down more than it ran. You okay, kid? I think I'm dreaming, sir. You're not dreaming. Tony, NBC. And call ahead. Tell them I'm bringing someone. The drive took 20 minutes. Traffic on Sunset was thick. Dean asked questions. Michael answered, slowly at first, then faster as he relaxed. He was 13, turning 14 in September. Born blind. Congenital cataracts. Doctors said maybe surgery could help when he was older, but it cost money his family didn't have. He loved music more than anything. Listened to the radio constantly. Could identify singers in 3 notes. Knew every lyric to every Dean Martin song ever recorded. His favorites were Memories Are Made of This and Return to Me. He wanted to be a singer when he grew up. Knew it was probably impossible. Blind singers weren't really a thing except for Ray Charles, and Ray Charles was Ray Charles. Once in a lifetime, but Michael dreamed anyway. Kid, let me tell you something, Dean said. Impossible just means nobody's done it yet. Doesn't mean you can't, but you really think I'm good enough? I think you're better than good enough. I think you've got something special, something real. And tonight, you're gonna show the world. Michael went quiet, processing. Then, softly, Mr. Martin, why are you doing this? Dean thought about that. Really thought. You know what the hardest thing about this business is, Michael. It's not the work. It's not the hours. It's watching talented people never get a shot because they don't know the right people, because they weren't born lucky, because nobody gave them a chance. He paused. I was lucky. I had people who believed in me, who opened doors, and I swore if I ever got the chance, I'd do the same for someone else. Today, that's you. They pulled up to NBC Studios Burbank. The guard at the gate saw Dean's car and waved them through. Dean led Michael inside. The boy's hand gripped his white cane tight, other hand on Dean's arm, nervous, terrified, excited. All at once, the hallways smelled like coffee and cigarette smoke and floor polish. People rushed past. Someone shouted about a lighting cue. A woman laughed from somewhere. Michael took it all in through sound, building a picture in his mind. Dean pushed open the door to Studio 4. His producer, Greg Morris, looked up from his clipboard, saw Dean, saw the kid. Confusion crossed his face. Dean, who's this? This is Michael Castellano. He's singing on the show tonight. Silence, complete. Greg's mouth opened, closed. Dean, we can't just. There are union rules, contracts, legal clearances, insurance. We're live in 4 hours. You can't bring in a random kid off the street and... Greg, Dean's voice stayed calm. Soft even, but there was steel underneath. He sings tonight, or I don't. Your choice. To Greg stared. Dean stared back, didn't blink, didn't smile. Just waited. The room held its breath. Finally, Greg threw up his hands. Fine, Jesus Christ, Dean. You're gonna give me a heart attack one of these days. He looked at Michael, softened slightly. Kid, you better be good. He's better than good. Dean said they had 3 hours to rehearse. Dean introduced Michael to the band. Piano player Lou Ramirez raised an eyebrow when Dean explained the situation. But he sat down at the piano anyway. Asked Michael what key he sang in. Michael had no idea, didn't know what a key was. Lou played a note. Michael matched it, sang a scale, perfect pitch. Lou whistled low. Okay, kid, let's see what you got. They ran through. Everybody loves somebody, twice. The first time Michael was shaky, nervous, voice tight. Dean stopped him halfway through. Michael, forget the cameras. Forget the lights. Forget that we're here. Just sing it like you were singing it on that corner. For you, for your mom, for everyone who never stopped to listen. Can you do that? Michael nodded. They started again. This time something shifted. Michael's shoulders relaxed. His voice opened up, clear, pure, powerful. By the second verse, the stage crew had stopped working, just listening. When he hit the final note, held it, let it fade naturally, there was silence. Then Lou started clapping. Steady. The rest of the band joined in. Then the crew. Michael's face flushed. He didn't know what to do with his hands. "'Kay, kid," Lou said, "you're gonna be just fine." 6 o'clock, Maria Castellano arrived. Small woman, maybe 5'2". Dark hair, tired eyes. She wore her waitress uniform, hadn't had time to change. When she saw Michael, she ran to him, hugged him tight. He buried his face in her shoulder. "Mama, you won't believe what's happening." "I know, baby. I know." Dean introduced himself properly, shook her hand. Maria stared at him like he was a vision. "Mr. Martin, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to thank you." "No thanks necessary, Mrs. Castellano. Your son's got a gift. I'm just helping people see it. He's my whole world," she whispered. "After his father left, Michael's all I got, and he's so good, so talented." But nobody ever, she couldn't finish. Tears took over. Dean handed her his handkerchief. "They'll notice now? 8 o'clock, showtime." The Dean Martin Show went live every Thursday night. Broadcast coast to coast. 20 million viewers. Dean's opening monologue killed as always. Jokes about Frank's hairpiece, about Joey Bishop's gambling debts, about his own drinking. The audience ate it up. Then Dean got serious. His face changed. The smile faded. He looked directly into camera too. "Folks, before we bring out Vicky Carr for our next number, I want to tell you about something that happened to me today. I was driving down Sunset Boulevard, heating here, running late, as usual, and I heard something that stopped me cold." He paused. A voice, singing my song, and when I looked over, I saw a young man, 13 years old, sitting on a street corner, blind, with more talent in his little finger than most people have in their whole body. The audience murmured. Curious, concerned. No, I could have kept driving. I had places to be. But something told me to stop, to listen. And I'm glad I did, because this young man reminded me why I fell in love with music in the first place. Not for the money, not for the fame, but because music connects us. It makes us feel. It makes us human. Dean smiled, warm, genuine. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Castellano." The curtain opened. Michael stood center stage, alone, small, vulnerable. He wore the same clothes from the street corner. Dean had offered to get him something else, but Michael had refused. "This is who I am, Mr. Martin. I don't want to pretend." The studio lights were bright, hot. Michael couldn't see them, but he felt them. Felt the cameras, felt 200 people in the audience staring at him, felt 20 million more watching from home. His hands shook. He gripped his cane tight. Then Lou played the opening notes, and Michael began to sing. The first note was shaky, but the second was stronger. By the third line, he'd found it. That thing he had on the corner. That pure, unfiltered connection to the music. His voice filled the studio. Clear, strong, honest. No technique, just feeling. He sang about love, about finding someone, about everybody needing somebody. And every person in that audience felt it, really felt it. A woman in the third row started crying. A man in the back closed his eyes. Dean stood in the wings, watching, his own eyes wet. This was why he did this. Not for the applause, not for the ratings, for moments like this. When something real broke through all the Hollywood bullshit and reminded everyone what mattered. Michael held the final note, let it soar, let it fill every corner of the studio. Then silent heartbeat, 2. Then the audience erupted. Standing ovation, instant, thunderous, people screaming, cheering. Michael stood there, confused, not sure what was happening. Dean walked onto the stage, put his arm around the boy's shoulders, leaned into the microphone. "I think they liked you, kid." Michael's face crumpled. Tears streamed from behind those dark glasses. He tried to speak. Couldn't. Dean pulled him close. Let him cry. The audience kept clapping, kept cheering, didn't stop for 2 full minutes. This is where most stories end. Talented kid gets discovered. Lives happily ever after. The end. But Dean Martin wasn't interested in fairy tales. He was interested in changing how Hollywood worked. See, Dean had been here before. Not exactly this situation, but this feeling. The feeling of watching someone powerless get ignored. The feeling of seeing talent wasted because nobody with power cared enough to stop. On a movie set in Arizona, he'd seen a stuntman nearly die because Warner Brothers cut corners on safety equipment. The man's harness snapped. He fell 30 feet, broke his back in 3 places. Studio wanted to hush it up, move on. Dean had shut down production, refused to work until they fixed every safety violation, paid the man's medical bills himself, visited him in the hospital every week for 6 months. The studio blacklisted Dean for a year. Cost him 3 pictures. He didn't care. In a Vegas showroom, he'd watched a mob boss humiliate a young comic, grabbed the kid by the throat, threatened to end his career because he'd made a joke that referenced the wrong people. Dan had walked over, calm, removed the boss's hand from the kid's throat, said 6 words, "Touch him again, I'll kill you." The boss had laughed, until he saw Dean's eyes. Then he backed off. Dan spent the next week with 2 bodyguards because John Connor's people were asking questions. But the kid was safe. That mattered more. And now, standing on a television stage with a blind kid from Sunset Boulevard, Don was doing it again. But this time was different. This time he wasn't just defending someone. He was about to give someone a chance they'd never get otherwise. And what happened next would change everything. The next morning, Dean's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Record labels, agents, managers, everyone wanted Michael. Capitol Records offered a contract. Columbia offered more money. RCA wanted to set up a meeting. Dean fielded every call, took notes, asked questions. He didn't sign anything, didn't commit to anything, just listened. At noon, he drove to the diner where Maria worked, found her in the back, refilling ketchup bottles. She saw him and nearly dropped one. "Mr. Martin, what are you doing here? We need to talk about Michael's future." They sat in a booth. Dean laid out every offer, explained what each meant, what the percentages were, what the commitments involved. Maria listened, overwhelmed. "I don't know anything about this business, Mr. Martin. I don't know what's good or what's a trap. That's why I'm here. I'm not going to let anyone take advantage of your son." Dean pulled out a paper, a contract he'd had his lawyer draft that morning. "This is what I'm proposing. You and Michael retain full creative control. Any songs he records, he has to approve. Any appearances, you both have to agree. The label gets standard distribution rights, but Michael owns his masters. Unheard of for a new artist, but I'm insisting on it. And I'll personally oversee his development, no cost to you. Voice lessons, music theory, performance coaching, all on me." Maria stared at the paper, at Dean. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know us." "I know enough. I know Michael's got something special. And I know this industry eats special people alive if they don't have protection. So I'm protecting him. I can't pay you back. We have nothing." "I'm not asking you to pay me back. I'm asking you to let me help." Maria's eyes filled. "I don't understand why someone like you would care about someone like us." Dean leaned forward, serious. "Mrs. Castellano, I grew up in Steubenville, Ohio, son of an Italian immigrant barber. We had nothing. My father worked 16-hour days so I could eat. When I wanted to be a singer, people laughed, said Italian kids from small towns don't make it big. But a man named Ernie McKay gave me a shot. Let me sing with his band. Didn't have to, didn't get anything out of it. He just saw something in me and helped. That one chance changed my life. And I swore if I ever had the power to give someone else that same chance, I would. Michael's my chance to pay it forward." Maria signed the contract. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the pen. That afternoon, Dean took Michael to meet Lou Ramirez. Lou had agreed to give Michael voice lessons twice a week. Dean was paying him $500 a month, 4 times what Lou made at NBC. When Michael found out, he protested. "Mr. Martin, that's too much. You've already done so much. Kid, you're going to make me a fortune in the long run. Consider it an investment." "How am I going to make you a fortune? You're not my manager. You didn't take a percentage." Dean smiled. "You're going to make me a fortune by proving I was right about you, by becoming everything I know you can be. That's worth more than money." Over the next 6 months, Dean became a fixture in Michael's life. He showed up to voice lessons, gave notes, offered advice, When Michael recorded his first single, a cover of Return to Booth, Dean sat into every take, pushed Michael to dig deeper, to feel more, to let the vulnerability show. The single, released in March 1966, it didn't set the world on fire, made it to number 47 on the Billboard Hot 100, respectable for a debut, but not a smash. Some people called it a disappointment, said the kid was a one-night wonder, said Dean had wasted his time. Dean didn't care. He called Michael the day the chart position came out. "How you feeling, kid?" "Honestly, a little disappointed. I wanted to make you proud. Michael, you made the Billboard Hot 100. Do you know how many singers never even chart? You're 13 years old, and you've got a record on the radio. That's not a disappointment. That's a miracle. But it's not number one. Number one doesn't mean anything if you compromised who you are to get there. You made a record you're proud of. That matters more." Michael's voice got quiet. "You really mean that?" "Kid, I've had 30 number one records. You know how many of them I actually love? Maybe 5. The rest were just product, just things the label wanted. But the 5 I love, those are the ones I'll remember when I'm old. Quality over quantity. Every time." Michael kept recording, kept performing. Never became a superstar. Never sold out arenas. But he made a living, a good living. He released 4 albums over the next decade. None went platinum, but they were all critically respected. He performed at small venues, jazz clubs, intimate theaters. People who saw him perform never forgot it. That voice, that presence, that absolute authenticity. He got married at 22, had 3 kids, taught music at a school for blind children, stayed close to his mother until she died in 1989, and he never forgot Dean Martin. Every year on July 14, Michael called Dean. No matter where Dean was, what he was doing, they'd talk for an hour about music, about life, about how a chance encounter on a street corner had changed everything. Dean never publicized their relationship, never used Michael for PR, never brought him on talk shows to tell the heartwarming story. When journalists asked about it, Dean shrugged. "Kid had talent. I had a microphone." Seemed simple, but it wasn't simple. It was deliberate. It was Dean Martin using his power for something that mattered, something real. See, most people with power use it to get more power, to protect themselves, to build walls. Dean used his power to open doors, to lift people up, to notice the ones everyone else ignored. The stuntman who almost died, the comic who got threatened by the mob, his own best friend when Jerry crossed a line, and a blind boy singing on Sunset Boulevard. 4 different moments. Same man, same impossible choice. To use his power for someone else, to risk his comfort for someone's dignity, to stop when everyone else kept walking. That's not just being famous. That's being decent. That's being human in a world that rewards inhumanity. Dean Martin died on Christmas Day, 1995, 78 years old. By then, the variety show was a memory. The Rat Pack was mostly gone. Frank was fading. Sammy was dead. The world had moved on. But thousands of people showed up to Den's funeral, and among them was a 44-year-old music teacher from Los Angeles, still blind, still carrying a white cane. Michael Castellano stood in the back of the church, tears streaming down his face. And when they asked if anyone wanted to say a few words, Michael stood up. "I never would have had a life without Dean Martin," he said. His voice still strong, still clear. "I was nobody, a blind kid on a corner, and he stopped. That's all he did, he just stopped. And that one decision gave me everything. A career, a family, a purpose. But more than that, he showed me what power is actually for. Not for ego, not for control, for lifting people up, for giving chances, for noticing what others ignore. I've tried to live my life the way Dean lived his, helping students who think they're invisible, giving chances to kids who think they don't matter. Because that's what Dean did for me, and if I can do that for even one person, then I'll have honored his memory." The church was silent. Then someone started clapping, then someone else, then everyone for Dean. For the reminder that one person, one choice, one moment of decency can ripple outward forever. So here's the question nobody asked in 1965. If you walked past Michael Castellano that day on Sunset Boulevard, would you have stopped? If you heard that voice, that talent, that desperation, would you have done something? Or would you have kept walking like everyone else? Most people chose to walk. They were busy. They had places to be, important meetings, important lives. It wasn't their problem. It wasn't their responsibility. Someone else would help. Someone else would notice. Except nobody did. Until Dan Martin. He stopped his car. He listened. He acted. And in doing so, he didn't just change one blind boy's life. He reminded an entire industry what power was actually for. Not for ego. Not for control. Not for keeping others down so you stay on top. For lifting people up. For giving chances. For noticing what others ignored. Dean Martin did this over and over. The stunt man on the movie set who almost died. Den saved him. The mob boss who threatened violence. Den didn't blink. His best friend who humiliated a young performer. Den walked away. And a blind boy singing on a street corner. Den gave him the world. 4 different moments. Same man. Same impossible choice. To use his power for someone else. To risk his comfort for someone's dream. To stop when stopping was inconvenient. That's not just being famous. That's being decent. So here's the real question, the one that matters. If you had Dean Martin's platform, his power, his voice, what would you do with it? Would you walk past the Michael Castellanos of the world? Would you keep driving because you're late, because it's not your problem, because someone else will help? Or would you stop? Because the truth is, you don't need to be Dean Martin to change someone's life. You just need to notice, to care, to act. You need to stop walking when everyone else keeps going. Dean Martin did. Would you?